I don't think they have to open up, really. I mean, there are people we're seeking who have gone into Cuba for a little while. And we have, in fact, had the Cuban, there are some non-Jamaicans, and we have had them arrest them over there, or we tell them, look, when these people land, turn them around, and so on. So, you know, it works. Talking about,
I would like to look at the security from the quality of life perspective. And therefore, my comments are addressed primarily to Professor Headley rather than the Commissioner. Now, in trying to mitigate crime, one can either use a hard approach or a soft approach. The hard approach being beefing up the security forces, the police, more repressive laws and so on. And the soft approach being trying to transform the communities that are what you call inner city. And Professor Headley, you're on record as saying that really what we should attempt to do is to transform those communities. Because the hard approach has never worked. The hard approach alone has never worked and will never work. In the early 60s, John F. Kennedy gave the Americans, challenged the Americans to conquer new frontiers. We now have an American presidential candidate who is offering the American populace hope for a better future. Now, interestingly, just today, the private sector organization of Jamaica is putting on a luncheon, which is aimed at getting the private sector to be more proactive and to take an interest in committing funds to helping the inner city communities. Now, I believe that that is the only approach that will work. In fact, it's an issue that I've been arguing for over 5 years, that the better segment of society has to reach out and help these inner city communities and give them some hope for a better future.
Just a clarification. I recall briefly that when the weapons issue with Venezuela, I believe Colombia made a point at the OAS. What happened is that quickly thereafter we had that issue when Venezuela mobilized 10 battalions to go to the border of Colombia. And most sources indicate that the Venezuelan military itself was wondering, what the hell are we doing? Because almost any student of military affairs in the region could tell you that the Colombians would whip the Venezuelans in no time whatsoever. So they weren't concerned about the numbers, but they did make a case of it at the OAS in terms of what is this all about. But I think that increasingly we're finding the traditional U.S. as a proxy is less and less. We just saw the recent conflict, the situation again, Ecuador and Colombia and so on. And I think that is probably much more volatile and much more threatening than when you have the U.S. involved, because the situation, you don't have the deterrent of a stronger actor. And of course, we recall, what was it, Jorge, 97, 98, the conflict between Peru and Ecuador? Right. When was it? 94, 95.
Well, if you want to go back in history, we can talk about Honduras and El Salvador going to war over a football match. But I think we're in a new era. There's an era where there are so many things binding the states together. You have the Conference of American Armies. You have the Defense Ministers' Meeting of the Americas. You have many fora that bring all the players together and so on. So I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm saying that confrontation is less likely. You may get a skirmish, but in terms of something that really boils over into a reasonable fight, I less likely than it would be 20, 30 years ago, when in fact you have different kinds of leadership and so on. Venezuela, with some security arrangement with Russia. I didn't finish responding to that and so on. Look, personally, I think I might have more concerns about the Russian mafia or elements of it than that arrangement. There's a lot of saber rattling, and you've got to look at the actors who are involved in these kinds of things, and don't take some things too seriously is what I'd say. You have to look at what capacity one has to deliver on some of the things we put in agreements, if it manifests, if it materializes. So I don't think we should get too excited about that. A question I keep asking everybody who keep insisting about this hard policing and soft policing and so on. First of all, it's a bundle of nonsense. I only know one kind of policing, professional policing. And I make no distinction. I make the point and one of the pillars that I'm pushing is community policing. If the community policeman goes into a thing and sees somebody breaks the law, he arrests him. And if he goes somewhere and somebody gives him a justifiable reason to use deadly force, I expect him to use it and use it effectively. There's nothing soft about that. So this distinction about hard policing, soft policing, professional policing means that you are going to behave in a certain manner. It means that you may have extra patrollings, more things, and so on. But it doesn't mean you're going to go beat up on citizens. It means that you're going to be professional, what we're looking for, a relatively corrupt-free police service, and a citizen-focused service. This hard and soft business and community policing is soft policing. It is nonsense, but we keep doing it. What we're asking for is crime fighters. Crime fighters. Look back at history. Our own history here. There has been something synonymous with crime fighters. It means abuse and extrajudicial activity to a great extent. These crime fighters and brand names. This is not the kind of force that I'm trying to cultivate. So let's not, too much downstream with that one. I think that's all of it. There's